January 17th, 1991, 2:38 a.m. Baghdad time. A Soviet-designed P-14 Tall King early warning radar sweeps the Iraqi sky. The operator watches the green phosphor screen, tracking nothing but empty air. Then, for less than 3 seconds, a single return appears. A flicker. A ghost. The operator marks it as interference and returns to his scan. 5 minutes later, the AT&T communications tower in central Baghdad explodes into fragments. No air raid sirens, no missile warnings, no aircraft detected. Just silence, then devastation. In Moscow, military intelligence officers reviewing overnight reports from Iraq understood immediately what had happened. The Americans had deployed something that Soviet war planners had been dreading for over a decade. A weapon that rewrote the rules of air warfare. And you've heard, not the Hollywood myth, the real story, told through declassified documents, Soviet intelligence assessments, and the voices of those who flew it into combat. Because the F-117 wasn't just an aircraft, it was a strategic weapon that fundamentally altered the Cold War calculus. And the Soviets knew it long before the first bomb fell on Baghdad. To understand why this jet terrified Soviet military planners, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when stealth wasn't a technology, but a desperate gamble. 1975. Saigon falls. America's military reputation lies in tatters. Soviet air defenses have evolved into layered, overlapping networks of radars and surface-to-air missiles. The SA-6 gainful system has proven devastatingly effective. During the Yom Kippur War 2 years earlier, Egyptian SA-6 batteries shredded Israeli air power, shooting down over 30 aircraft in the war's opening days. American defense planners understand the problem. Soviet integrated air defense systems can detect, track, and destroy conventional aircraft with brutal efficiency. Penetrating Soviet airspace to strike time-sensitive targets, command centers, nuclear facilities, would require aircraft losses that NATO simply cannot sustain. The Pentagon needs a solution. Not a faster jet. Not a higher-flying jet. Something invisible. Lockheed's Skunk Works division, led by Ben Rich, proposes something radical. An aircraft shaped entirely around radar cross-section reduction. Every surface, every angle, every edge calculated to scatter electromagnetic energy away from enemy receivers. No smooth curves, no round surfaces. Pure angular geometry that looks like it was carved from obsidian by a paranoid mathematician. The design is revolutionary and terrifying in equal measure. Engineers calculate that it will be aerodynamically unstable. It will require constant computer adjustment just to stay airborne. It will be subsonic, unarmed except for bombs, defenseless if detected. But if it works, Soviet radars will see nothing. The Pentagon codenames the project Have Blue. The first prototype takes flight in December 1977 at a remote test site in Nevada. It crashes 10 months later. The second prototype crashes the following year. But the concept has been proven. 1978. Construction begins on a full-scale operational stealth strike aircraft at a classified location in the Nevada desert. The facility is designated Area 51's Tonopah Test Range. Security is absolute. Workers sign non-disclosure agreements backed by federal prosecution. Families are told nothing. Flights occur only at night. Aircraft are wheeled into hangars before dawn. If commercial or civilian aircraft stray too close, security forces scramble. The program is classified at a level above top secret. It has no official name, no budget line, no public acknowledgement. For nearly a decade, the United States operates a fleet of combat-ready stealth aircraft that officially do not exist. But someone is watching. Soviet signals intelligence sites track unusual electromagnetic signatures over Nevada. KGB technical intelligence officers note increased security at known U.S. Air Force research facilities. Defector reports mention a black aircraft program. By the early 1980s, Soviet military intelligence GRU has assembled enough fragments to understand the basic reality. The Americans are developing a radar-evading strike aircraft. What they don't know is how well it works. Soviet engineers are skeptical. Radar stealth theory is well understood. Implementation at combat scale is considered nearly impossible. American materials science, Soviet analysts believe, cannot solve the technical problems required for true operational stealth. This skepticism is a miscalculation that will cost them dearly. November 10, 1988. The Pentagon holds a press conference that changes everything. For the first time, the United States Air Force officially acknowledges the existence of the F-117 stealth fighter. A single photograph is released. The image shows an angular, faceted aircraft unlike anything in operational service. No curves, no roundness, just flat panels and sharp edges painted midnight black. Aviation analysts worldwide are stunned. The Soviets are not. In Moscow, the acknowledgement confirms what GRU suspected, but triggers a strategic reassessment. The fact that America is willing to reveal the F-117 means they are confident in its capabilities and confident in its deployment numbers. Within weeks, Soviet technical intelligence begins a comprehensive analysis. Captured radar return data from monitoring stations, signal intercepts from test flights, photographic intelligence from satellite passes over Nevada, computer modeling of the aircraft's geometry. The findings are disturbing. The F-117 has a radar cross-section estimated at less than 0.001 square meters. For comparison, a conventional fighter aircraft like the MiG-29 presents a radar signature of 5 to 15 square meters. The F-117 is effectively invisible to existing Soviet early warning radars at operationally relevant ranges. Detection would require the aircraft to pass directly over a high-frequency radar site at close range, by which point it would have already released its weapons. But Soviet concerns go deeper than simple radar evasion. The real nightmare is strategic. The F-117 carries laser-guided bombs with circular error probable accuracy measured in meters. This means surgical strikes, not carpet bombing, not saturation attacks, precision decapitation strikes against high-value targets. Soviet war planning relies on centralized command and control, leadership bunkers, communications nodes, nuclear command facilities. All of these targets, previously considered protected by air defense networks, are now vulnerable, and the Soviets would have no warning, no time to scramble interceptors, no time to evacuate leadership, just sudden, catastrophic destruction delivered by an aircraft they cannot see. Soviet Strategic Rocket Forces leadership presents a classified assessment to the Defense Council. The F-117, they argue, fundamentally undermines mutually assured destruction doctrine. In a crisis, American stealth aircraft could strike Soviet nuclear command infrastructure before Moscow even knows war has begun. Decapitation strikes could sever communication between the Kremlin and missile silo commanders. The Soviet nuclear deterrent could be neutralized without a single ICBM launch. This is unacceptable. Emergency directives go out to air defense research bureaus. Develop counter-stealth radar systems. Prioritize low-frequency radar development. Explore infrared detection alternatives. But everyone understands the timeline problem. These systems will take years to develop, test, and deploy. The Americans already have operational stealth aircraft. Right now. August 1990. Iraq invades Kuwait. Within days, American forces begin deploying to Saudi Arabia. Among them, classified but expected, is the 37th Tactical Fighter Wing, flying F-117 Nighthawks. Soviet intelligence officers in Iraq immediately alert Moscow. This will be the first combat test of stealth technology. Everything Soviet planners feared is about to be proven or disproven in actual warfare. Soviet-made radar systems fill Iraq's air defense network. SA-2 Guideline, SA-3 Goa, SA-6 Gainful surface-to-air missile batteries, Roland and Crotale short-range systems, multiple overlapping radar coverage zones. The same integrated air defense architecture that Soviet doctrine considers nearly impenetrable. If the F-117 can penetrate this network, it can penetrate Soviet defenses. The F-117 pilots know what's at stake. They will strike first, before the massed bomber formations, before the cruise missiles, before anyone else. Their targets are the most heavily defended sites in Iraq: downtown Baghdad communications facilities, presidential command bunkers, air defense sector operations centers, integrated air defense network nodes. These are targets that would normally require massive strike packages, dozens of aircraft, electronic warfare jamming, defense suppression, fighter escort. Instead, the mission planning is almost insultingly simple. Single F-117 aircraft, flying alone, no escort, no jamming support, nothing but the aircraft's stealth characteristics and the pilot's skill. The first F-117 combat mission launches at 1 a.m. on January 17, 1991. Captain Marcel Kurdavid releases from King Khalid Air Base in Saudi Arabia, climbs to altitude, and turns north toward Iraq. The aircraft flies without navigation lights, without radio communication, without radar emissions, completely electronically silent. Iraqi air defense operators see nothing. Their Soviet-designed radar screens show empty sky. Coalition intelligence monitors the Iraqi air defense network's radio communications. There is no alert, no warning, no indication that anyone in Iraq knows American aircraft are approaching. The operators have no idea what is coming. Captain Kurdavid crosses into Iraqi airspace at 25,000 feet. Still no reaction. He continues north, directly over known SA-6 battery positions. The missiles remain on their launchers. No radar lock, no launch, nothing. He reaches his target, the Nukaib Intercept Operations Center southwest of Baghdad. Laser designator activates, target locked, weapons bay doors open. 2 GBU-27 pave way, 3 laser-guided bombs release. Weapon bay doors close. Kurdavid banks away and turns south. Behind him, the Nukaib facility ceases to exist. The first bomb penetrates the reinforced concrete roof. The second bomb follows into the breach. The explosion tears through the underground complex. Across Iraq, the same scenario repeats. F-117 aircraft appear over Baghdad, over Tikrit, over Al-Taji, each one invisible. each one unopposed. High-value targets explode without warning. The AT&T Communications Tower, the Ba'ath Party Headquarters, the Ministry of Defense, Air Defense Sector Command Posts. In 36 hours of combat operations, F-117 aircraft fly over 700 sorties. Iraqi air defense networks fire thousands of surface-to-air missiles and millions of anti-aircraft artillery rounds. But they're firing blind, shooting at sounds, shooting at nothing. Not a single F-117 is damaged. The entire Iraqi air defense system, designed and equipped by the Soviet Union, proves completely ineffective against stealth technology. Soviet observers in Baghdad file urgent reports. Iraqi operators did occasionally detect brief radar returns, fleeting contacts lasting 2 to 3 seconds. But these returns were inconsistent, appearing and disappearing seemingly at random. They were too brief to generate a weapons quality track, too intermittent to cue missile launches. By the time an operator identified a potential contact, it had vanished. This matches exactly what Soviet engineers feared. Low-frequency early warning radars might occasionally detect a stealth aircraft, but detection is meaningless without tracking. Without tracking, there is no firing solution. Without a firing solution, the missiles never leave their launchers. Iraqi Air Force generals demand answers from their Soviet advisors. Why aren't the SA-6 systems engaging? Why aren't the command centers receiving warning from early warning radars? The Soviet technical officers have no good answers. They recommend desperate measures. Fire surface-to-air missiles in barrage mode without radar guidance. Saturate likely approach corridors with anti-aircraft artillery. Activate all radars simultaneously to maximize detection chances. None of it works. The F-111s continue striking targets at will. The realization sinks in. Soviet air defense doctrine has been rendered obsolete. Not degraded, not challenged, obsolete. A single aircraft type, operated by one nation, has invalidated billions of rubles of air defense investment. The strategic implications hit Moscow like a shockwave. If American stealth aircraft can operate over Baghdad with impunity, they can operate over Moscow, over St. Petersburg, over Soviet nuclear command bunkers buried beneath the Ural Mountains. Every high-value target in the Soviet Union is now vulnerable to precision attack without warning. Soviet military planners run war game scenarios. The results are catastrophic. American stealth aircraft strike Soviet early warning radar sites in the opening minutes of conflict. Follow-on strikes eliminate command bunkers and nuclear communications nodes. Soviet strategic rocket forces lose connectivity with the Kremlin. Regional commanders are unable to determine if they should launch retaliatory strikes. The nuclear deterrent collapses. This is why the F-117 terrified Soviet leadership. Not because it was invisible, the Soviets knew detection was theoretically possible, but because stealth plus precision equals first strike capability. The ability to destroy an enemy's command structure before they know they're under attack. In Cold War terminology, this is strategic destabilization. It creates incentives for preemptive action. It undermines crisis stability. It makes miscalculation catastrophic. Soviet Defense Minister Dmitry Yazov presents a classified briefing to the Politburo. The assessment is blunt. American stealth technology has fundamentally altered the strategic balance. Soviet air defenses cannot counter it with existing systems. Development of counter-stealth technology will require massive investment and years of research. During this window, the Soviet Union is strategically vulnerable. But by 1991, the Soviet Union has larger problems than stealth aircraft. The economy is collapsing. Nationalist movements threaten the Union's cohesion. Military budgets are being slashed. The F-117 has proven Soviet air defense doctrine obsolete at precisely the moment when the Soviet Union lacks resources to respond. Defense research bureaus submit proposals for counter-stealth radar development, infrared detection systems, low-frequency radar networks, passive detection arrays. Most are never funded. The Soviet Union dissolves in December 1991. The Cold War ends. Not because of stealth technology, but stealth technology's combat debut provided a stark demonstration of how far American military capabilities had evolved beyond Soviet systems. The F-117 served for 17 more years after the Gulf War. It flew combat missions over Serbia in 1999, over Afghanistan in 2001, over Iraq again in 2003. It was retired in 2008, replaced by more advanced stealth aircraft with supersonic speed and air-to-air capability. But its legacy is permanent. The F-117 proved that stealth technology works in actual combat. It validated precision strike doctrine. It demonstrated that advanced technology, properly applied, can render entire defense networks irrelevant. And it taught military planners worldwide a hard lesson. Technology gaps are not theoretical. They have real strategic consequences. The Soviet analysts who watched F-117 operations over Baghdad understood something that many observers missed. The Nighthawk wasn't just a successful weapons system. It was a paradigm shift, a demonstration that the nature of air warfare had fundamentally changed. The Soviets didn't fear the F-117 because it was invisible. They feared it because, for the first time, the United States possessed a weapon that made their entire defense doctrine obsolete. Not degraded, not challenged, obsolete. That realization, more than any arms control treaty or diplomatic agreement, marked the end of Soviet strategic parity with the United States. The Cold War was over. The Americans had won. And the F-117 Nighthawk flew through the night sky over Baghdad to prove it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the numbers behind the myths, hit subscribe. We're putting together more content that challenges accepted wisdom with careful research and primary sources. Drop a comment below. I genuinely want to hear your thoughts, especially if you disagree or have additional sources. And if you want to dig deeper, I've linked all my sources in the description. Thanks for watching War Discovery.